was nice to see the Amazon logo attached, not in that terrible Amazon Presents with that ugly logo in the movie theater, but just elegantly on the screen in normal font.
Yeah. It starts with the TV intro.
Yeah, so through a pastel 50s living room, zooming into the TV.
Yeah.
It's going in black and white.
With a very beautiful Twilight Zone monologue of like just pure poetry.
Yeah.
Of this is the land between logic and myth.
Yeah.
This is the paradox hour or something.
Well, I think it was like Paradox Theater.
Paradox Theater.
Which was kind of also like, something about it was making me think of also Paramount. It's like a play on Paramount.
It zooms in to that screen showing you a Twilight Zone TV show, which then opens up to the first shots of the actual movie we're gonna watch in like flickering blue light, and then every like chapter of every new chapter of the film is first seen through that flickering blue TV screen.
Yeah.
And in the old lady's house, the flickering blue TV screen is just a TV on in the room, and every person's face, when they show their face, like half their face is like lit by the blue light.
Yeah.
And then the final chapter, there isn't any like TV segue. They're just like going headlong to the source.
The vast.
Yes. The source of the mystery itself.
Yeah.
Into which they're swallowed up.
Yeah.
But it starts with just all 50s all the time. No point of the running time not filled with
50s isms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just overflowing with.
Yeah. Very stylized in that way that makes it like really fun to be immersed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just following the camera, or the camera's just following the main characters, and all you're seeing is their backs for a long time. Yeah.
So like, I think it starts with Everett like getting out of the car and heading into the basketball game stadium thing, and it's so obvious that like he's the main character and everyone has people to say to him, and he's like witty and he's the hero so obviously, but he's also a nerd and has like the super thick glasses, and then no one quite like matches him, and then Faye also has the super thick glasses.
Yeah.
And when they come together, it's really clear that like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both like heroes and central and people know them, but they're also both outsiders. They're the only two people not at the basketball game in this small town.
Yeah.
They've got the thick glasses.
Yeah.
So maybe like they're heroes in their own minds, but not in anyone else's eyes really. But like their sense of their experience is so like magnetic to themselves.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, it doesn't matter if they're, like, inside or outside of what's happening.
Yeah. And, yeah, so it's really interesting to start where everyone is going to be gathering, but has not yet completely gathered. And then I was noticing, like, they're all so interested in this small town and each other's lives. And, like, where's Mrs. Robinson, and like talking to the older woman who's feels obviously very intimately tied to like every person in this whole institution, but also is complaining that like no one listens to anything I have to say. She's so tragic, but completely owning that that's her role in this whole town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is to just be this put upon old lady that runs errands for everybody. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a really clear role in this town of 490 people. Mm-hmm. I wonder how like accurate that is to any time, to have a town that small. Like well, I've never lived in a town that small. Like, do things happen in towns that small?
Yeah.
Is there a sense of closeness and community?
Yeah, I can speak to that from my stint in the Midwest. I lived in a very small town, like similar to this in a way, because it was like everything really was centered around the high school, because that was bringing in people that didn't live in the town proper, and all surrounding places. But like anything that happened was like it's happening at the high school. Like there's like the sports event, there's like this parade related to something that's happening at the high school.
Yeah.
And then there's like very specific businesses. Like there's the one library that's like walking distance from the high school. There's the one restaurant or two restaurants in town that are walking distance from the high school, and there's an ice cream shop, and there's like a pharmacy, and not much, a grocery store. That's all.
I wonder if this is a contradiction to my theory that maybe Everett is a hero in his own mind, but actually an outsider in the community's mind. But if he is like literally a hero in the community, is that like a 50s-ism? Like post-war, the only men left in the communities were the nerdy glasses people who couldn't fight?
Oh, well, okay, maybe, but also like if you think about their age and they're all like coming up at the same time, and like for the context of this story, it has to be someone that's not like scoring the goal in the game, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's got to be someone on the outskirts who can perceive the strangeness happening out in the nighttime.
And that question of like, no one's listening to me, like he has to be really like quick and good at talking and like be the maverick and be the host of this thing, but also be asking questions and listening to people, which is, I think less typical of like a jock kind of hero or something, you know?
But the first episode of the movie is just all fun dialogue and talking with everyone in the town and enjoying a bustling, vibrant social scene on like a Friday night in a Midwestern town.
Yeah, and so Faye,
in the 50s.
Yeah, and Faye is like younger and she's interested in him and like running up to him and I have my new recorder, like will you show me how to use it? I don't want to do something wrong. And then both of them going around to different family cars together as the families are getting ready to go see the game, and just asking them random questions like, did you hear a squirrel shoot through the wires in the stadium or something? And just like sharing town gossip and the like really genuine interest in like who knew what at what point, and the like all the little idiosyncrasies of that, which was the type of thing that when I lived in a place like that and would like talk to my grandma or something, I couldn't make myself be interested. Like I really noticed like I can't be interested in these like goings on. But I love that in this movie it's so central, and like because they're so interested in like where someone is, like is this person home, like are they okay like babysitting their kid, or you know, are they at the game, or like, oh, they've been sick recently, or like they're baking cookies. Like all of that is like deeply important to the mechanics of the entire mystery. Yeah.
And it's just really good script writing. None of it's like put on. None of it set off my bullshit detector.
There's
like like Everett does a little bit because he's so bombastically like egotistical.
Yeah.
Like, is anyone actually like that in real life? But by and large, I think the dialogue in that whole, like, there's so much dialogue and it's so tight and it's so well performed.
Yes.
Not just by Faye and Everett, like by like 50 people,
Totally.
like stuffed into one like 20-minute segment.
Yeah.
Everyone's firing off these pitch perfect lines that are, it's just really great script.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like almost choreographed. There's parts of it that are like so classic, they could be tropes or cliches, but I think the acting is so well done that it ends up working in a surprising way. And even like the question of how much we believe Everett as a character is addressed, because Faye's like, why do you put on that voice? Like, this question of performance that like just serves to like make you believe the whole thing more. Yeah,
it fits. It is revealed that it just fits with his hero's quest to get out of town.
Yeah.
He has to perform and be larger than life so that he can achieve and escape velocity.
Totally.
And get out of town, and that's why he like puts on a persona all the time.
Totally.
Okay. And then the phase 2 is just watching Faye be a phone operator.
Yeah, which is so cute somehow. Yeah, so she, like, they walk together from the stadium to her job, but we don't necessarily know where they're going, because the entire time, and this is something I love too, like, through all the transitions and things that are happening, they stay completely engaged in, like, their own stories about people in town and what's going on. And, like, as much as he wants to get out of town, he's, like, so intimately involved in every aspect of it. And so he's like, they're on this walk together, and you don't necessarily know where they're going, but you get a feel for the place and a feel for each of them. And he's interviewing her on her new recorder about like articles that she's read. And then finally they arrive somewhere, and then you understand that she's going to her job, which is to be a phone operator in the evening.
And pull wires out of a switchboard and plug wires in.
Yeah.
It is very tactile.
Yes.
It's very tactile and pleasing to watch her and hear the sounds of pulling these cords out of the board and plugging them in. And then they like reel back into their slots as soon as she lets them go.
Totally. Yeah. And the mechanics of that I was thinking of as being parallel to the mechanics of like everyone in town, and the really genuine interest in all of it. And like that's something that could really lose me, but they're so focused, and there's such a sense of urgency and pleasure about the whole thing that I stay completely engaged in it, which I liked.
Yeah. That's what a movie should do, is frame the everyday and make you see that, oh, this is actually magical.
Yes. Yeah.
It takes like this whole camera team and a director of photography and a compelling story just to frame like the mundane. Yeah,
the idea of working at a switchboard and missing the big thing. Yeah.
And obviously you have to have a character whose face you like looking at a lot and have her lit nicely and framed nicely. So that you can't, it's just a pleasure in itself just to contemplate this person's face. The way her nose holds her glasses. And those 50s cat eye glasses. Love it. Yeah. But the second phase of the movie is just like close up, tactile, like all the bustling noise and busyness of a town dies off, and all you're looking at for a long time is her face and hearing the things she's hearing. And that's the first inkling of something strange, is she's hearing strange things and having her phone connections cut off in strange ways. And then there's a silent interlude of her of the one shot through the entire town.
Yeah.
It's just a silent eye travels from her studio to the basketball game to Everett's studio.
Yeah, that's an amazing shot. And what do you call that, a continuous shot? Is that?
As a technical term?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was one shot and it was amazing.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
And this swell of music came up out of it that you only hear once, and you only hear with that big interlude.
Yeah, and it's in the basketball game scene when I was really, really appreciating the power of a shot like that, because while so much of it can kind of feel like a play, that movement of the camera taking you like all around the stadium as it's
like
alive
in the
with,
middle of the basketball game it is, and then it's up in the bleachers with the people.
Yeah, and like when you compose a scene, like you're always thinking from just one angle, but that was taking you all the way through it, and no one stops moving the entire time, and it's always turning around, and like it's like the most exciting part of a play where everyone's on stage and everything's happening, but every single possible viewpoint of it is interesting and relevant. And I loved that. It's like possibilities of theater that feel profound. Like everyone had to be perfectly choreographed for that to happen.
Yes. And so what that achieved, I'm thinking now, is establishing the town as a character.
Yes.
Well, there's Faye and there's Everett, and the town is the other main character.
Yeah.
And so that was like just, you get statements of Everett's like sense of life. And you get a statement of Faye's sense of life, and then you also get a statement of the town's sense of life.
Yeah, totally.
So it's not just Everett, it's not just Faye, and like some like caricature cardboard cutout of like, oh, it's a small town, they're trying to get out of it, yada yada. It's they give the town a speech. Yeah,
and it's like beautiful and lovable. Like, even though they want to get away from the town, they let the audience like love the town too.
Yeah, and so you get a sense of like, in the vast of night, what keeps these people together. Like, what's the warmth that they're all gathering to. Whether they're conscious of it or not, they're like alone in the New Mexican desert.
Yeah.
And so
Is it New Mexico? Cool.
So all they have is each other. So that's an interlude, and the next episode, the third phase of the movie, is Billy's monologue, and that's a close-up in Everett's radio DJ studio.
Yeah, so you go from being in the stadium to another continuous shot, or the same continuous shot that leads you all the way to his studio. And Faye's tried to get a hold of him and tell him what's going on, so he's aware that this like weird sound keeps cutting people off and cut into his broadcast.
Yeah.
And then he gets this call.
Yeah. And so that's just a close-up on Everett while you hear a gravelly old man, he sounds black, tell a story about the weird sound that's been put on the radio. He's heard that sound before, and he has this whole fucking story to lay out, and it takes what, like 15, 20 minutes of him telling the story while the shot just like is on Everett.
Yeah.
But there's another blues staticky TV shot where
Yeah.
when Billy starts telling his story over the phone to Everett, it's this blue staticky shot of a radio.
Yes, right.
And it's like a beautiful Art Deco
Yeah,
a radio.
It is. Yeah, it's beautiful. And then through that story, the screen will also just go to black or like gray, just empty shots. And I was really struck by the point of that being like, just listen to this, like just experience the sound of this.
Yes.
And yeah, that's a really cool thing. That's like a moment in Her. The same kind of thing happens. Like the screen goes blank, and take in the blankness and just absorb the sound. And the problem of not being heard is resolved there, because that character says that he was let in on these, or he was assigned to mystery missions because he was like a minority and someone that people wouldn't listen to.
Yeah.
And I was also really struck by just the fact that Faye is able to recognize that sound, because I think that if I would have heard that sound, I would be like, oh, a sound, and then I would completely lose memory of it and not recognize it again.
Yeah.
But they keep really good track of like this very obscure like wind and maybe a little bit of like a tonal like melody kind of. It's very big and like amorphous and like, what is this? I can't talk about it, you know, but they remember, oh, that specific sound happened here and here and here.
Yeah.
Which is just like an unspeakable thing to begin with.
Yeah, it's very amorphous soundscape thing with like whirring and buzzing and whooshing.
Yeah.
And there's like a liquidity to the sound.
Yeah.
And that's like the mystery, and all that you are seeing of like the mystery of this movie is just the sound for a really long time.
Yeah.
But that's also my experience too, is things that are strange just don't fit into my neural nets of what's relevant to me. So it happens, but it's like a dream. I just forget about it because I don't have any zoological like tags to put to it and know where in my memory it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that speaks to like a certain sensitivity in the 50s, because that's like the 40s and 50s is famously when people were seeing UFOs fucking everywhere in America constantly.
Yeah.
And so any one of those instances would be forgotten because of that effect. It doesn't fit into anyone's belief systems.
Right.
But then it was like a rush of thousands of them all at once.
Yeah.
Almost to like, it had to be that many to intrude into the psyche enough to like get tagged as something in our memory.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it makes me want to skip ahead to the scene in the car, but maybe we should wait.
Okay. So the story of Billy is great. It's a great story.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a conspiracy theory UFO trope the entire time, pretty much.
Yeah.
His story of secret military operations and secretly dealing with UFO craft, and the soldiers working on the missions weren't ever allowed to know anything.
Yeah.
The main interesting part of it was tying in 50s segregationism and minority classes being used by the military in the story of this movie, the military knows that minorities don't have respect to the greater population, so they're safe to send on these UFO missions because no one will believe them anyway.
Yeah.
And that was the one concession to modern political correctness in this very politically incorrect film.
Why do you think it's very politically incorrect?
Because it's all white people, and it's in its 50s, and it's Americana, and it's...
Yeah, I guess it is Americana for sure.
It's unapologetic. It's reveling in how beautiful this Americana thing is.
Yeah.
And the main character is literally telling the female protagonist to shut up. Like, more than one male tells his female to shut her mouth.
Oh, well, I was gonna say Everett keeps having Faye like denounce communism.
Oh yeah.
I am not, nor have I ever been a communist. And he's like, the Soviets are coming. That's what's happening right now. Yeah, that's reminding me also of this line throughout of like, are we gonna get in trouble? I'll get in trouble. Like, if I do this, like, I'll get in trouble. You're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a very heightened awareness of the rules that they're breaking by like being where they're not supposed to be, or just listening into like adult goings on.
Yeah.
Makes them feel like they might get in trouble.
Yeah. So what's revealed with the Billy phone call is this whole backstory that this sound is associated with mysterious military operations, but it's also not a military sound. And that's important. And then they discover that someone else that Billy worked with lived in Cayuga and had a recording of the sound. And so then Faye runs to the library and like finds this recording and runs out, and there's Everett with the car, and she gets in, and it's like, a great action moment. Like, the keys to the library. Okay, I can get those because it's a tiny town and I know someone with the keys. And
she just runs into someo's house and grabs the keys and runs to the library, breaks in, takes all the tapes that the library has. And then Everett grabs her in a car that he stole.
Does he know? No, he doesn't know. Yeah, that's really fun. So then I think right after that, she's at the radio station with him, and that's when the power gets shut off. Is that right?
Yeah, they're having a kind of a heart-to-heart about their hopes and dreams together while they're going through all the library tapes. And that's another just pure tactile enjoyment. You just watch Everett work a reel-to-reel. And that's like so pleasing.
And roll it.
Take the tape out, like roll it through the things, and then hit these fucking levers, and then like you can just like undo the tape and it all just snaps back into the reel. It's amazing.
It is amazing. It's beautiful. And and she asks him like what his plans are, and he says he wants to leave, and she like wilts a little. And then she starts talking about how she could leave too, and I think she imagines New York, and he's talking about the West Coast because that's where radio's happening. And then the lights shut off, and she's like, "Are you playing a trick on me?"
Well, no, the lights, they find the right tape and they play the sound, because the whole idea Everett has is like, well, we're getting played with, the sound is getting played at broadcast at us and disrupting everyone's communications. Just shot in the dark here. What if we play the sound back? And so they find the tape and play the sound back. And it cuts off all the power in their building. and then that freaks Faye out.
Yeah.
And that's like sets off the next action scene.
Yeah.
And she just goes off running.
Yeah.
In her 50s outfit.
Poodle skirt, cat eye glasses, little white collar with the little tie. So cute. And she runs to her home to get her sister, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To get her baby sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by this time, they're running into neighbors who are seeing UFOs in the sky.
Yeah. So
and
now there's something in the sky. That's what people are saying to each other.
Yeah, and she's been at her post enough at this point in the movie to be getting calls from everywhere that anyone who's not at the game is seeing UFOs.
Yes.
And so this is now like a town-wide fervor that like the 10% of the town that's not at the games is like freaking out and is like propelling the momentum of this final act of the movie. And they get a call from Mabel Blanche, and she like cuts through with like a really loud, clear voice into like the chaos of the running time to say like, I have the answer.
Yeah.
And the drama is really like well played. Like it must have been like orchestrated unconsciously to the audience to set up her voice talking on the phone to Everett, because it's so effective, like to hear her like, I have the next clue for you.
Yeah.
I am an old lady.
It like focuses it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
Everything gets really quiet all of a sudden. And like, you know that she has everything.
Yeah.
Or you hope she does.
Yeah.
And it's not really clear at the end of the day what she has, except a really good performance.
Yeah, she has like a key. So yeah, again, that feels like a moment of like really good listening and really good focus. And it's amazing that Everett is so quick and always has a response to someone and is like knows what the next step is always, and is like really in tune with all the action happening in all these other spots. And then he gets the phone call and it focuses in so much. And that's just a really great part of the film, is that rhythm of this big maximalist chaos of hella people all talking over each other at once that then drops out to like literally nothing but a voice telling a story, like a life's story for like 20 minutes straight. I love just before we move into the old lady, like the scenes where they're running into the few people that aren't at the game. It's like there's something very believable about it in the way that it's like they're both like, there's something in the sky and it's overwhelming, and it's like this kind of apocalyptic reaction, and also like, how are you? I thought your mom was like in the hospital, like what's up with you? How have you been? You know, and this like catching up and the random like small townness of it that makes it feel really funny and just keeps that rhythm going. Okay. So now, the old lady, they go to her house.
The old lady, this is like being played as the climax of the whole film.
Yeah.
And you've never even heard of this old lady before this moment.
Yeah. And it's, I think Faye says, like, she's kind of a shut-in. She never calls in the evening. Like, I've never talked to her before or something. So the phone operator can't help us here. She's a mystery. And, so then they go to her house, but she doesn't answer the door, and they walk in and they just hear this voice saying some like unintelligible words.
Yeah, she's like reciting this weird spell, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my God, we found the witch, like, here we go. And they walk deeper into the house, you know, like through the hallway, through the kitchen, and there she is at the back of the house in the sitting room. And there's just like classic old lady, like I can see exactly what she would look like in a Miyazaki movie, you know, like it's like a caricature, but it works so well somehow.
Well, it works so well because every single piece of every single thing you're seeing and hearing is that done up.
Yeah.
Nothing breaks the vibe of that.
Yeah. But there is like Wes Anderson will do that, you know, where it's like so stylized in a specific way that you just keep going. But this is like just like a couple steps less stylized, where it feels like you can really get into the urgency of it. You know what I mean?
What? The urgency of it?
Yeah. I don't know how to explain that. Okay, but the old woman, like, I think one of the first things she says is, "I'm not a witch." And then you're like, okay, I know who this is. And then...
A witch.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And then before she tells them her story, she says, "I'll tell you this story, but after that, I have a request for you." And he says, "Okay." And you're like, oh God, this is gonna be bad. And then do you wanna?
Well, she gives the second huge monologue of the thing, except this isn't a voiceover over a telephone. This is one shot or two shots. There's like a final epilogue shot that like is a full-on close-up of her front face, but like it's a profile shot of her just performing a monologue forever.
Yeah.
Like telling her life story.
Yeah. Which is also, to me, feels like a Midwestern thing. Like, there's no abstracting what I'm trying to tell you or like just giving you a piece of it. Like, I have to tell you, like, first of all, where I was born and who my parents were and what they did for a living.
Yes.
And then I can tell you where I went to elementary school. And eventually we'll get there.
Yeah. And eventually you do get there, and it's a really good performance.
It's a really good performance.
And the camera starts at a certain distance from her face and just draws in closer.
Really, really slowly.
Really slowly, the longer the shot goes. And she tells her own story about the sound.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's completely extreme and informed by an old lady who's been forced to live by herself for decades.
Yeah.
And so it's probably colored by her loneliness and depression.
Yeah.
Like she paints if there's two classic UFO polarities of they're the reason everything bad is happening to us, and they're our Christ-like savior coming to rescue all of us, then it's definitely the darker one.
Yeah, she literally says, like, there are people in the sky, and they took my son away, and they're, like, above us, giving us bad thoughts, making us do bad things, and, like, starting wars. It's like, okay, I think that's demons. Like, you're describing, like... biblical demons. Yeah. And
again, the TV screen trope is here. Like every chapter of this movie has been broken by seeing the shot through a staticky black and white TV screen to remind you that you're watching a Twilight Zone episode. And then here they don't do that. They just put that TV in the room with them.
Yeah.
So its light is on everyone's face.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're getting more immersed maybe in the experience that way. But after she tells her tale, that's suddenly when, before when Everett was talking with Billy and plays the stolen tape from the library. He says I don't care if I get in trouble, this is good radio, and I'm gonna get a better job somewhere else. And then in this scene with this woman, after she tells the story, he gets up and shuts off the recording and leaves as quickly as he can. And
he wholly rejects her and her request afterwards and her entire story.
Yeah.
He just says no to her and runs away.
Yeah. And so she tells them because of these people in the sky that make people do bad things. Free will is not possible. And then, because she believes her son was taken by them, she asks, her final request is that they take her to the people in the sky. And like, what else would she ask them? But there's also this feeling of like, don't go there. If you believe they're like demons, don't do that. And yeah, he has a really big reaction, and I kind of love that moment because the crazy supernatural believing old lady trope is like not a very likable one, and that keeps it feeling more realistic to me.
To have her story get rejected.
Yeah. And yeah, the anger that he feels, it's like he's been tracking this and staying really interested, and then suddenly he gets to the place where like it's gone too far.
Yes.
And like he's like disgusted by it.
Yeah. Well, there's an aspect there to which people don't really want to know the answers. They like the mystery more.
Yeah.
And so the old lady has like, she's created an entire like, this is the full answer to the whole thing.
Right.
And maybe it's completely true, maybe it's only partly true, but she like shines a too bright light on this little adventure he's having. And that's part of why he can't handle it, I don't think. He doesn't actually want to know the whole thing, because the whole thing isn't like necessarily understandable or like happy.
Yeah.
It's more brutal, kind of like nature can be more brutal.
Yeah.
And the final, they run out of that place, and they go, Faye's forgotten about her baby sister until this point.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
they go grab her out of the house, and their neighbors find them again and say there's UFOs like just over there. We're gonna go look at them.
We saw them, and like, let's go look at them again.
Yeah. And weird fucking UFO shit happens in the car on the way there.
Specificity, Alex.
Well, I don't know. Am I spoiling everything?
Yeah, that's what this is for.
They play the tape of the lady saying the weird fucking spell words that she saw. Like, she saw these spell words like take over the minds of different people in her life, her son included, and they're caught on tape. When he plays back the tape in the car, the like older couple that's driving them out there like does the exact weird alien possessed thing that the old lady describes. And they almost die, and they like come to themselves and pull over, and Faye freaks out and runs off into the forest with her baby sister. And it's this confirmation of the old lady's story. And now you like fully remember you're in a Twilight Zone episode. Because like up to this point, it's like you forget you're in a Twilight Zone episode because it's just such a great 50s period piece.
Yeah, and like anything could happen, and like maybe we're gonna discover that this is the Soviets, or maybe we're gonna discover that this is the U.S. guy. It could be, I don't know.
Yeah, but then it's firmly fucking aliens doing mind control shit.
Yeah, and the thing I love about that scene is like, it seems like Everett just doesn't want to talk about this at all, and won't even like say the words, and the old woman tries to give him the paper, like say these words if you meet people, and you think like he rejects that, and so he's like, there's no hope. But then instead he plays back the recording of her saying it, which is like even better somehow.
Yeah.
And what happens then is so amazing because you don't get to see the faces of the people. You just see from the back seat, like they're in the front seat and they're just like lifting their heads. And so they seem to be in a trance, but like you don't know if it's like a horrible, painful face they're making, or like they're just blank, or like is it joy? Like it could be anything. We have the mystery is retained. And then is obviously super dangerous, and he's trying to get them out of it, and they're about to smash into the oncoming car potentially. And then there's just like these flashes, and then suddenly the car's on the side of the road and the couple is apologizing, like, I'm so sorry. And Faye's got her baby sister and running away from them into the forest. And it's so interesting that like what happens in that scene, I've just described it, but it's like completely unspeakable, but a very specific experience. Like she's so afraid, but like what is she afraid? Like what happened that she's so afraid of? They were entranced. She witnesses like the sheer power of it, I guess, and the lack of control maybe, and the entire like fact of this like revelation is just like shoved upon her in like these flashing scenes, and you just have to deal with the emotion of that. And
then it even just goes black, and all you're hearing is the flashing sounds of panic and screeching.
Yeah, exactly.
And pulling the car over.
Yeah. And maybe there's a way that like in a car with the oncoming headlights and then flashing black, like that's potentially a car crash, and like that is more containable in some ways than the fact of like, okay, now there's aliens and I have to deal with this. And
they keep a certain amount of that exact moment unarticulated, so that you have to like fill in a lot of it with your imagination.
Yeah.
And I think that's necessary, because you're not, if in the perspective of any one of these characters, like none of them is actually in a paranormal experience. So much of what you're experiencing is contextual and restricted to like, I didn't see this fucking clear thing. Like I felt this in consecutive order to hearing that, and having the other person look at me because they just had the same impression, and we'd been talking about blank. So to have this happen next, like like things add up to a completely unexplainable but completely undeniable sense of the uncanny. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the undeniability of it, even as so much of it remains mysterious. That was the success of that scene to me. It's amazing. And you can see also the like it was this like story of how like a town might react to UFO experiences. And you also see they're like trying, like they're in the heat of an interpersonal moment with other people. Yeah. So even the people like best equipped to record the event, like they literally have recording equipment and stuff. Like they're like juggling, like talking with people and trying to get rides somewhere with like, oh, stop, I need to like record what time it is on tape and what we've done. Yeah. But like they're so in the heat of the moment, like if you found that tape afterwards, all you would have is like random jargon of the basketball game. Yeah. And then like him saying it's 7:30 p.m. and then forgetting again to record anything after. Yeah. And okay, wait. Let's pause for a second. And I have to go to the bathroom, and then like
hold that thought and say it again. 'Cause I have to-
Yeah, I was trying to point out how hard it is to record. Well, it's hard to record anything.
Yeah.
As a recording artist, I can attest to that fact. But yeah, to record a supernatural fleeting event
Yeah.
is, well, how are you going to do that?
Yeah. So there's this trope that was really, really popular in like 2012 or something of like found footage films.
Right.
And I didn't really like those, but I love the should we skip to the end? Should I say this? You already kind of got there.
Yeah, we're at the end.
Yeah. The fact that they get disappeared, beamed up by the people in the sky, and the like last scene is just of this tape on the ground in the dirt, and like the information is there, and like this whole story like is available for someone to like rediscover in like a Jumanji way or something.
Yeah.
But like Jumanji, to try to absorb that information would take anyone else on that exact same journey where they would become as alien as the people that were like literally vanished, or the old woman who like doesn't actually get to go be with the alien people apparently, but is practically an alien because of everything she believes in, you know?
Yeah.
And like, so it's like this, like, even if their documentation had been perfect, which obviously it wasn't, like, it's only accessible by people that are willing to go through a complete metamorphosis into like
Yeah.
the other world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to read a book, you have to like create the story in your mind as you're reading it, and to like to be a good historian, maybe you have to embed yourself in what you perceive that civilization to be, and take on their like viewpoints and their mythology, and become changed by the information to have any chance at all of transmitting the information to other people. That's the subject matter I was riffing on when I was writing Intoxicant Waves. That's about going through underworld hero's journey necessary to making the album, and then that song is integrating the more cool, beautiful stuff we found in the pretty songs, those lessons of songwriting, now trying to integrate them into the normal that we started at, which is like, it's this badass metal record. But then it's, as a character story, it's about like trying to bring back something from that underworld realm. But the only, like, all you can really bring back is your own changed self. The movie was sick, though. It's really good.
So I was really appreciative of the part where Everett reacts so negatively to the woman, because that's so often my reaction to supernatural stories. If people are telling me about them, I'm like, you're crazy. And like, for me, that's like the key that made it good, is like this moment of disbelief that just like adds to the undeniableness of it or something. And then I was just thinking about our difference there, and like, what do you love about aliens? You said in your previous podcast that you hope that aliens happen soon.
I hope aliens. I did.
I hope aliens soon.
That's interesting. Do I hope that? Yeah, certainly. I hope aliens soon because that would make skill sets of mine relevant.
True. Well, I should start thinking about that.
And I think that's probably a relatable trope even of any outsider type personality.
Yeah.
What do I like about aliens? It's the same. There's a similar principle to loving Atlantis.
Yeah.
And just the uncanny within the normal.
Yeah.
And it would validate this sense of being in a magical world.
Yeah.
To have something magical happen.
Yeah. I think I love Atlantis because I like the idea of having come from there and getting to return there, and it's a space of maybe divine order, divine resonance. But I think something about the alien thing that doesn't light me up is that, well, there's obviously the old lady that's imagining them as demons. I just can't get into that.
Mm-hmm.
But also yeah, I think I feel very attached to this place and the myth of Earth or something. And so Atlantis existed on Earth, and even Castle in the Sky vibes is still Castle on Earth sky.
Yeah.
But if the alien and maybe even if it was aliens but from this solar system, I'd hang with it. But if they were from another galaxy, I'd be
yeah.
My galaxy though, my solar system.
It's not relevant enough to you.
I think, yeah, I can get as big as the solar system and think in terms of the sun and this clock, but I don't have a sense of yeah, even maybe this galaxy, I don't have a sense of that larger clock. I'm
mm-hmm.
not old enough, not big enough
mm-hmm.
to get that, and I'm yeah, attached to this size.
Yeah. I feel very detached from the issue lately, emotionally.
The issue.
It is an issue.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up.
There's literal alien shit happened.
Yeah, more recently even.
That's very baldly able to be looked up.
Yeah.
Just stuff that flies in the face of logic maybe, but certainly our story of the way things are doesn't fit with a whole lot of evidence. But all I ever have is my personal experience, and in that sense the real alien artifacts of experience have been inner worlds and things the human mind can do that make it clear that every individual human is basically an alien.
Yeah.
And there's just things unaccounted for that the body can do, mm-hmm. and that the human mind can do. And I don't really know about anything else that isn't human.
Yeah.
because I've never encountered anything like that. I've seen UFOs.
Yeah. You want to tell your UFO story?
No, it's too obscure to like
I know, it's impossible to
make good television.
We're here to make good television and good radio. A desire in me to like, discover Atlantis, but that somehow feels like going more to the core of something. I mean, especially if you think of it as being literally underwater, underground, like you're going deeper into the earth. And when I think of being like beamed up into a UFO, it's like there's like a vanishing element to that is kind of sad, and I think I'm really glad that makes me sad because it means I'm attached to this world, and that's like a really good thing sometimes. Okay, we can keep going. There's an attachment here. Yeah.
I have an intuition about the whole Mars colonization thing that I'm not sure it'll ever even happen. I have an intuition that humans can't be apart from their Earth and still be human.
Yeah, me too, as you shall see.
I think like if they made it off there to another place, they would just like wilt and die because we come from and return to energetically this like one spherical spaceship Earth thing.
Yeah.
And I think even like in sci-fi like crazy futurist terms, I think when we master space travel, it'll just be by like being aware of what the Earth is already doing.
Right.
And the Earth is the spaceship.
Yeah.
And we just like we just know how to actually look out at which part of the cosmos our Earth is hurtling through at any given moment.
Yeah.
Because we are like hurtling through the cosmos at unbelievable speeds.
Yeah.
And we've never been physically in this spot in the cosmos before.
Right. Yeah.
And we're going somewhere else from here. With the sun, like twirling around the sun and this fucking shooting like
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
And where's the sun going? It's the center of the galaxy. Where's that going? Yeah, that's fun.
I think mostly what people want and need with alien myths is the unknown itself and the mystery and having somewhere to focus on that lets their imagination expand.
Yeah, totally.
Because to actually meet an alien race, like, imagination is done now. You know what they look like. You know what their civilization is and why and what their spaceships are, and like now you're kind of bored. You didn't actually want to know. You just wanted to have like the open possibility
I see
of an alien could be anything.
Yeah.
But then like, what if it's like Speaker for the Dead by Orson Scott Card, and they're pig-shaped. There's pigs who walk on two hind legs.
Yeah, that's like when I watched Solaris, like the promise of what the mystery could be and all the build up to it was so exciting. And then once he gets to the like haunted spaceship thing, the actual thing is like really disappointing.
Yeah.
And yeah, the connection to what is earthly and the divine order here and those kinds of myths that really light me up. And then the alien kind of thing. There's also a way that it's just like oriented toward men. Like it's like very boyish to be into like sci-fi.
Yeah.
So it's not oriented toward me. But the one experience I actually had of seeing something that I think was a UFO was I was at Table Mountain, and it was after the sun had set.
Okay, the first question one has to ask when someone tells them they were on Table Mountain as a preamble to a UFO story is, were you on drugs?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, I was not on drugs outside of my brain, just being just like so happy. Yeah.
You were in an elated state.
I was in an elated state, yes. And the stars were coming out, and yeah, the night sky was really bright, and then it was just like I thought I was looking at a constellation, and then I saw that it was moving, and there were like more stars in it than a typical constellation. Mm-hmm. And it was moving really slow and kind of spiraling and like long, and I was probably there for like 2 minutes. No, a minute maybe. And
it was spiraling. Like, how long would one spiral take of these extra stars in this constellation?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Like, how slowly were they moving? But they were moving enough to enunciate you using a metaphor like a spiral.
Really, really slow. So slow that it was hard to tell they were moving.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was like I'd been staring at it for long enough. And then it was slowly fading and disappeared.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And my experience of that was like not the kind of like sci-fi thing that's like I associate with like comic books and like a lot of like metal interiors with flashing buttons and mechanical tools, but like I think of it as like a celestial dragon. That was like the first thing that came to my mind, and that it was this feeling of like, oh, like what's happening in space is like, yeah, ethereal divinity, and like I'd been like laying in the wildflowers, and then there was this feeling of like, and what's out there is like, magical and beautiful in a way that is just like light without form.
When I saw some UFOs a few weeks ago, I was left with a sense of like the naturalness of it. Like I was looking at the moon afterwards, and there was cirrus clouds. So like clouds almost invisible and so thin, just enough to give the moon a huge three-dimensional spherical halo of glowingness.
Yeah.
And the clouds were moving really fast. Mm-hmm. And I just had this intuition that like, Jesus, there's like a whole rainforest of shit happening over our heads that like you just don't look up enough to see the 10th part of anything could be hidden up there. Like all sorts of shit and creatures and stuff can be like flitting in and out of the visible light spectrum. I don't know. But I what I saw a few weeks ago is just lights pretending to be stars, and if you just had them in your peripheral vision, they would pass off as stars. Mm-hmm. But if you actually looked at them, they were obviously too bright and too early of the evening to be stars, but that's what they were pretending to be. And they were all in formation like a constellation, but very slowly drifting together in one direction to stay in the same formation. But I could feel them like dissipating. Like I didn't see them dissipating because it was so slow. I could only like intuitively feel that they were like dissipating. And then I just was like staring at them, and after like 4 minutes, the last one had faded into
Yeah.
disappearing again.
Yeah.
And while I was looking at him in the street, trying to call Stuart because he was in the just trying to hit up my neighbors that were in that immediate vicinity to go out and look at what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Like, are you seeing this? This old lady in a car stopped by me on my bike and was like, what is that? I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to get my friends out to look at it with me.
That is so, the small town moment. There's people in the sky.
It was a small town moment of she's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
oh, that guy might know. What is that?
You record things. Can you help me here? Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Are we done?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have places to be.